Hello, everyone. I'm Brian Reynolds, Chancellor with the Archdiocese of Louisville. Welcome to our podcast series, What's New in ArchLou. This show highlights the people and ministries of the Archdiocese of Louisville, the Catholic Church in Central Kentucky. Join us each month as we welcome guests to discuss what's new in the Archdiocese and invite you to get involved as you deepen your engagement with your Catholic faith. This program is brought to you by the ArchLou Podcast Network. I can't believe it's February. I almost was going to say Happy New Year again, but it's moving along, and here we go. And later this month, we actually move into Lent. So my goodness, the calendar is moving, and so is the church year. So again, welcome everybody. Today we have a very special guest. Eva Gonzalez is our director of the Office of Hispanic Ministry. Eva joined the Archdiocese in 2010, serving in the Office of Multicultural Ministry, and in 2020, Archbishop Kurtz appointed her as the first director of the new Office of Hispanic Ministry. She and her husband Francisco have 2 children and are members of All Saints Parish in Taylorsville, Kentucky. Eva, welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. Good morning, and thanks for the invitation.
Happy to have you. Now, I gave you a little bit of a history, but your life is bigger than I just read. So how about can you tell us a little more of your background, where you hail from, and what more about your life and your background? Do you mind to tell us a little more about you?
Sure. I was born in California and have lived in Mexico and the United States. I studied in a Catholic high school, and I have a master's degree in religious education. I serve in some committees and boards locally, regionally, and nationally. I serve also as a facilitator for Spanish online courses on faith formation for the University of Notre Dame and the University of Dayton.
You are a very busy minister in our local church. In fact, I think you're on more committees nationally than anybody else on staff because you're very popular because of your expertise, but also your generosity. So thank you for doing all that and for representing us well. During our show today, I wanted to get an opportunity to, besides meet you, I wanted our listeners and viewers to get a broader understanding of what we even mean by Hispanic ministry and what's changing in our church. So, but we're going to stay a little more with you first. Tell us about your journey. How did you end up in this work? You do many, many things, and you're a parent and a spouse and a educator and a presenter and a church minister. But how did you get into this work? You could have done many things.
Everything started in my childhood by observing our faith practices with family members in the community in general. So these practices will entail pilgrimage, attending Mass, observing the first Fridays of the month in honor of the Sacred Heart, many others observing Lent, doing the Stations of the Cross. And so all these practices have been continuing being part of my journey. They have not stopped. But it was until one day that I was at Mass and the priest was asking for catechist. He was in such need. So my husband, and I'm going to give the credit to him, because he was the one who pushed me a little bit to take a step forward in serving in the church. I was kind of hesitant, and it was until the 3rd time that the priest asked for this need that during that discernment time of 2 to 3 weeks, I decided to finally say yes. And by saying this yes, I started to put my faith in action. And I think that was the step that I was needing to feel more complete. And since then, my life has changed in so many good ways.
That's terrific. So catechetics is where you began, and then you moved from there into deeper involvement with parish, and then eventually the diocese. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Yeah, very good. you're nice to give credit to your husband. I'm sure you also experienced God kind of tapping you on the shoulder. Is that right?
Yes, I think that's how his call came to be.
Okay.
I was needing someone else to tell me, you can do it.
Yeah. I know from other conversations you and I have had over the years that you also have a personal devotion to the Blessed Mother. Is that correct?
Yes, I do. Latin America is so full of the devotions to Mary. Each country has its own patroness. And so she is very dear to me.
Yeah, I've heard you speak of her. That's wonderful. Let's talk about the ministry then. Hispanic ministry is relatively new in our 200-year history as an archdiocese. Obviously, ministry of the church to people with a Hispanic background, Latinos, there's different words you can help us learn as we get started here. That's not new, but it's new here in Kentucky for us to expand, because what's shifted in the early part of this century, 20 plus years ago, was a growth of the Hispanic population here. So over the last 2 decades, that ended up leading to the creation of an office. That's something we hadn't done in a long time, create a brand new office, but it was a tangible outgrowth of the changing population and the real pastoral needs of the families, the men and women and children who are part of our church, but are more newly arriving. So help us with what I just described. You can correct me if I didn't describe it correctly. When we talk about Hispanic ministry, what does that mean? What would we say Hispanic ministry?
Well, Hispanic is a broad ethnic category that is used here in the United States to describe Spanish-speaking people. That includes Spaniards and their descendants that might have not even passed through Latin America. So this term was incorporated in the 1970 census, and then it was embraced by the church due to the nature of a national awareness.
Okay, so beginning in the 70s is where it first appeared. That's a good marker for us, because of an influx of population, or there were what caused that?
Exactly. And we see that according to the 2021 data survey, we have, in the census of 2020, we have in our archdiocese 36,000 Hispanic Catholics.
My goodness.
And this is an estimate, of course, but this is out of the total of the 196,000 in our diocese.
Okay, do that one more time for me. So when we say Hispanic Catholic, we're only talking a portion of the Hispanic population. Right?
Exactly.
Okay, so that's a big number of even how many Hispanics live here, never mind those who are Catholic. Is that correct?
Yes. So it's only 36,000, the portion of all Hispanics that live here.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. But that's a large population shift for us. I remember, it wasn't that long ago, but we go back 25, 30 years in my time here, it was a negligible part of our church. We had, in 1990s, early 90s, we had no masses in Spanish. And today, I think we have 7 or 8 every week, and sometimes more. And we have a full-time office and a staff. That's a change in a relatively short amount of time. Does that reflect what's happening in other parts of the country too? Or are we just how is it like that in other parts of the country?
Yes, it is increasing due to the numbers, and especially in our times where we see more migrants coming into the country. So we are doing all what we can, and even a couple of years ago, if you might remember, it was part of the strategic plan of the bishops here in the United States to look at the Hispanic community. And that's why we came out with the fifth encuentro process that nationally it took place in 2018, but there was a lot of work that was done before then.
There's obviously over the 200-plus year history in this country, 2,000-year history in the church, of course, trends or or times when different groups have come here and have reflected. There was times where a large number of Irish came here, a large number of any number of ethnic European countries, Germany and France, different places people come from. This movement to come Hispanics is just part of the newer time for us. We've also seen a large growth of the people who come from the Pacific Islands and Asia. So our church is changing a lot with the ethnic diversity. Is that a trend that the Hispanic community is interacting with these other cultural groups too, or do the Hispanic community stay under themselves?
Well, at the beginning, they start, it's among themselves, but then it's about integration, because we have shared parishes, and we live in a multicultural society. So it is important for them and for all to have an understanding of being intercultural.
Okay. Let's go to the ministry part. So what are the needs that the work of Hispanic ministry attempts to address?
Well, it starts by welcoming and embracing the people as members of the body of Christ, and to provide opportunities for them to share the gifts and talents that they bring. In working with the Vicar for Hispanic Ministry, in collaboration with him and the priest, we have quarterly meetings, and we look to the needs of the community. We touch on the topics that are much needed. Also, the office a few years ago worked a process of reflection and consultation in collaboration with the parishes, in order to know what were the hopes and the challenges that the community was experiencing. And based on the information that was collected from the parishes that have Hispanic ministry, we came with a plan. And based on that, this more recent plan of Hispanic ministry is how we are responding to the needs.
You mentioned the vicar. That's our friend Father Mike Tobin is the present vicar for Hispanic Ministries, and I know you have. I guess there are close to 10 or 12 parishes that serve in a particular way the Latinos, Hispanics who live in our diocese with programming. What are some of the things that your particular ministry, your office, does to help parishes serve this growing population?
Well, we offer the Diocesan Catechist program, and of course this is done in collaboration with the Office of Faith Formation. We offer the social level in Spanish, and we also provide classes that will give them credit if they would like to pursue the advanced and master level. We also have at this time 5 parishes that are being trained, and this is to integrate how to integrate our adolescents in the life and mission of the church. And this is done in collaboration with a national institute. We also offer the leadership formation program. We offer retreats. The last one was on theology of the body for couples. And we will be having a presentation on the Eucharist and what it means to be a Eucharistic community in light of the Eucharistic revival. And since we have Bible study groups, we will have a presentation for them on sacred scripture. So everything is based on the plan and in the current needs that the community is experiencing.
Okay, so that's a long list. So you do catechist certification, faith formation activities, working with adolescents, young people, teenagers. You have the work going on with prayer groups. You have leadership training. You have a wide variety of activities there, Eva. I wonder, lots of folks who don't have enough information first think Hispanic ministry. They think, oh, it's basically ministry just done in Spanish language. But it's more than language. Can you help us understand how the needs of the community is not just do people hear words that they're more familiar with in language, but it's cultural. Tell me about that.
Of course, it's not just language, because it is important to have an understanding of the culture. It's looking more than the tip of the iceberg. And I'm using this image that the bishops came out with in their book, Building Intercultural Competence. Underneath the iceberg, you can see what are the values, why they behave in a certain way. So, in more things, assumptions, etc. And these same things are part of any culture that we look at. So it is more than language. That is how, having an understanding, we can become more empathetic of the cultures.
So if you think about how we respond to cultural needs, each culture that lives in our community or in our country has different characteristics, I guess, might be a word for it. It's dangerous to stereotype, but what are some particular characteristics when someone says our parish is becoming, is changing because it's growing with our Hispanic members? What are some of the cultural things that a parish would start experiencing as they grow with that population?
Well, first of all, Hispanics bring their faith with them. They bring the gift of community and family life, the practices of popular piety, a reverence for the Eucharist, and an acknowledgement of the real presence, and a special love for our Blessed Mother.
Obviously, the most I don't know, famous is the wrong word. The one that people most see would be Our Lady Guadalupe. Would that be correct?
Yes, because she is the Empress of the Americas.
Okay. But as you said before, every country in the hemisphere has their own patroness.
Yes.
That's very interesting. I didn't know that. So if the church is growing, it's going to look for ways to celebrate those patronesses or Guadalupe or all of that, and then focus on family, focus on the Eucharist in a new way. Am I correct? Those are looking for ways to define it.
Yeah, actually, for some years already, for example, we have celebrated Our Lady of Charity of Calvary. She's a patroness of the Cubans.
Okay.
Exactly. And we have also had the celebration of Our Lady of Rosary for people from Guatemala. So the Stations of the Cross, the living Stations of the Cross, not just pray, but with the people participating in them, that was something new that the Hispanic community brought. And so, for example, some years ago in Shelbyville, they will close some of the roads, and the people will walk, and you will have someone dressed as Jesus carrying the cross, and the soldiers mocking him, and we would all be together praying the Stations of the Cross. So there are so many different practices, but living in our days, some of those practices have been lost, unfortunately.
Yeah. What can you suggest the broader church should know about Hispanic Catholics and the Hispanic ministry? What should the rest of us know?
Well, I will say that we haven't seen the whole potential of the Hispanic community yet in the life of the church. It's moving forward, but slowly. And the office exists to invite, to engage, and strengthen the participation of the Hispanic Latino community in the life of the local church. So we seek for opportunities and resources. And this is not to be done alone, but in collaboration with the parishes. So my message to the broader church is to embrace and support the Hispanic community in their faith journey so that they can continue building upon the good work that has been done by the people who has been here before them.
Very good. You don't, as you said, you don't work alone. You work through the parishes. We've had some generous priests over the years who were not Hispanic, who were mostly Kentucky natives, who took the time to learn the language and learn about the culture and do the early work. Now we've been blessed. We have some priests from Latin America who came and studied with us, who are now here. And we have priests assigned here even from Mexico for periods of time. So the priests are changing. Tell me about how the Hispanic community views the priest.
Well, they are very grateful. They have a huge respect for the priesthood. And on behalf of them, I want to thank the Archdiocese for all the efforts that have been done. First of all, is our priest making the effort to learn the language and the culture, and also for reaching out to other dioceses in seeking priests from countries of Latin America.
Very good. I think you have an opportunity here to also name that we recently started our new class for the permanent diaconate, and we have a track for Hispanic men to study for the diaconate.
Yes, so that is, I think that's another huge milestone to be able to have, as of now, some who are discerning the diaconate. These are, like you mentioned, Hispanic men, and hopefully our future will look much more different.
Yeah, very good. When you think about the future, what's your hopes? Where do you see this heading? What do you hope for the future?
I hope that we get to see more vibrant parishes. And when I say this, I mean to have so many ministries taking place. But this translates to have well-formed leaders so that they can take on those ministries. And that will help our priests who have already so much on their shoulders. Also, to be a true Eucharistic community that reaches out to the other, that looks for the other, for thy neighbor, inside the church and outside the church. It is so important to not focus just on ourselves. It's about the other. And also is to internalize a sense of mission by putting our faith in action in all ways possible.
Very good. Okay, I'm gonna ask you to do something a little bit silly as we wrap up our show today. I do not speak Spanish, and pronunciation would be very risky for me. But I'm going to ask you to give us just a couple words. I know Buenos Dias. If I'm new in a parish and I want to greet members of the Hispanic community who are new as well, can you give us a greeting in Spanish that I could use?
Well, we can say bienvenidos,
Okay.
Gracias por venir.
Okay. Translate that for me now.
Like welcome, thanks for coming.
Very good. Okay.
That's an example.
Good. Because I've learned to have an ear to listen for that. One of the things that's going on, many of our diocesan celebrations have started to include a reading in Spanish or a psalm in Spanish or a music with some Spanish verses. So we're slowly listening for words and pronunciations. It's hard for some of us to learn to pronounce the words correctly. That's why I was wondering that. Okay, language is one. Sorry for this one. How about food? All over Kentucky, the number of restaurants that are growing up serving, people see Mexican food, but it's much more than Mexican food. There's many different types. Tell us about, if I want to explore food in the Hispanic culture, where should I begin?
Oh, goodness.
Do you have a specialty you suggest?
Well, tacos, right?
That's right.
And it comes in a variety of ways. Carne asada, pozole, tamales. And of course that each country will tell you about their own dishes.
Oh, okay.
So, and sometimes in the same country, you have all this variety of dishes depending of the region or state. So I will say that we have a huge variety of meals. But maybe I can cook something for you.
Oh,
We can start there.
All right. That's a great idea. I think that's a great idea. All right. Listen, I appreciate you being with us today. Your insights and dreams for this vital ministry of the church is very important. You've served us well, and you make us very proud with all you've done here. But Eva, the work you've done around the country, you are a model and an ambassador for this diocese, and we're blessed to have you here. We're lucky to have you here, too. But we're also proud when we hear about, do you know that Eva Gonzalez is from your diocese? So it used to be people would ask about other people. They ask about you when we travel around the country because you're that influential. And we're very proud that you are, but we're also grateful for what you do every day. So thank you for that. I won't try to use a Spanish phrase other than to ask you to join me as we wrap up, keeping in mind our devotion to the Blessed Mother that you've spoken of, our devotion to the Eucharist that you've spoken of. Let us all be open to what the gifts of the Hispanic community bring to us, and particularly those devotional things that are a part of us. And I'll look forward to that meal that you promised there. I want to thank our viewers and listeners for joining us for this month's episode of What's New in ArchLou. Tune in next month when, again, we'll have a special guest with us.